Hello, this is another one of the videos where I go through a location from the Curse of Strahd module in Foundry and show you what I did for it. Today's video should be much quicker than the previous two. They were Death House, a big dungeon. This is just the church in the Village of Barovia, so quite a small location encountered early in the game. This is one of the locations that also has an animated splash art, well, an animated art scene available by James RPG Art. So this isn't someone who sponsors or endorses me, it's just someone I use a Patreon for, and I really think these are fantastic. He pays a lot of attention to what happens in the narrative and the description, and makes some really nice scenes. Anywhere that has one of these scenes available, I like to go to that first, because it's good for setting a scene, giving a visual for the players. You can load up some ambient sound, like I have. It's a rainy night, so I've put some rain and sound on. And it's also a last chance for you to quickly, if this is the active scene, I can then just go and make sure things are right. Is it definitely nighttime? Yes, it is. Things like that. So I might be describing to my players what's happening, where you hear the infamous "Father, I'm starving" cry. I'm not going to actually do my attempt at the cry because my throat's bad. I've only just noticed in this, actually, you've even got Ravenloft looming on the hills in the background. Something I like to do for these splash screens, I'll jump to another one quickly to show you in my campaign. I like to have these be sort of start and end points for sessions. I did make a campaign landing screen. I didn't really like it. I think maybe because I wasn't very good at it. I'm not very artistic. If I show you what I had as my splash screen. Oh, go away. Collapse and collapse. There we go. This isn't very good. In fact, I think I got rid of most of it. I made something like this for my group. Looks terrible. Looks like a 10-year-old made it in PowerPoint. So I stopped using that. And what I started doing instead was things like this one I used for Argynvostold, where I changed obviously the ambience. I put the current date and time when my group were there. I put like snow effects over in this case, and I even put a light effect with a fog cloud over there to give the impression of the moon being out with clouds moving across it. So I very much like making use of these splash screens for that. When I go to my actual map, I've not put a player on here yet. Let's add Halvor's my go-to. Let's turn his torch off. So what I could do here is I could go into FX Master and be sure to put some rain on. Don't know why that sound's starting to stutter and cut out a bit. If that keeps doing that, I'll turn it off. So we now have in his torchlight some rainfall. Could make that heavier if I wanted to. If I was doing that, this is where I'd want to put one of those boxes on that I talked about on my Death House video, where I might want to say in here, text, turn rain off. Oh. Just so it's a reminder for me when my players go inside. Make it invisible. But I want my players to, I want the invisible reminder for myself, my players go in, to turn the rain off. Even though in this particular map there's holes in the ceiling, it would be quite handy to have the turn the rain off everywhere except in here, but we can't have everything. You might feel like changing it over. I'm going to turn that rainy ambience off because I don't know why it's stuttering. So anything else to go through here? As you can see, I've put torch effects on. It's walled off. I've put windows in. It's not a huge amount to talk about on this map. It is a straightforward one. If I take it to the player, again, I've put that door module on, so that you probably want creakier, more impressive doors than this. And then they're inside. You could have your ambience. Depends on where you're going to have Father Donovich come in. Now you can see here a mistake I made. So this is why I like to take my players on a in the dark with a light source walk through my maps. We'll pretend I did this deliberately to talk about today. Here, the door and walls clearly don't match up. So that gives me a quick break when my players peek through. Now, sometimes a break can be bigger than that, and you could have like a token in there. It could spoil something that's in that room. So let's look. So here, the door and the wall nodes don't entirely overlap. This is why these days I like to do what I described to you in the last video I did, the Death House Catacombs. I like to build my doors slightly away from the walls, and using shift, I try to perfectly overlap them these days. I obviously made this quite a while ago. Now, well, we can see there's that faint line because the Fog of War has been remembered. If I were to delete my Fog of War history and then go back to him, he no longer has, a bit too zoomed in, he no longer has that sort of line of vision. Always, always, think about how much time and effort you're spending making a map, walling it, windows, sound, tokens, maybe if you're like me, journal entries, and then if a player just, through a little mistake, a player goes, oh, well, there's a dragon in there, let's not go in there. And you might have a social encounter built up. Always worth spending 10-15 minutes going through as a player, checking it all. So I didn't turn my rain off. I even put a sign down there, and I didn't turn my rain off when I came in. Let me go to my my effects. Why can't I go to my effects all of a sudden? My effects tab isn't working. I've done something. What have I done? I don't know what I've done. It's not listening to me. Let's do a reload. Just showing you. It doesn't always work for me either. It sometimes plays. It's still a new program. Now if I go back in. There we go. Now it's come up. Who knows what happened there? But I can go in and uncheck my rain. Now they're indoors. So we might have an ARP, you might have some music queued up to come in here. You might have a social encounter with Father Donovich. You might want to have in a soundboard ready, a bell sound in case a player decides to pull one of these. I like to think about for my soundboards, what are the common things that could happen anywhere you go? A player is always in danger of smashing a window. So, oh yeah, I need to rebuild my sound menu after that. But I've got a few things in here. You should always have a window smash. Oh, it's very loud. A window smash sound effect ready. Wood cracking if people are throwing around the benches in here. Now, as you may know, we're going to get a door open here. There we go. Your players can head down into the basement. It's chained up. I don't like to make a separate map for that. And also with all my videos, you'll see, I know that a lot of people use the module that lets you teleport. If you stand here, you're teleported to here. I don't like it. I don't like doing that. I think with the video game mentality a lot of players get into, running around on Foundry, it's far too easy for you to have narrative prepped for a trigger or an event and for your players to fly through it or go jumping from one map to another. To me, when my players go upstairs, I might be working on downstairs, moving things around. What I don't want is for a player just to go running off and get teleported to another scene that I might be doing kind of behind the scenes work or setup on. So a lot of DMs use it and it works great for them. I just don't like it. What I've done instead is I've kept the two maps on the same page. This also means the same grid works on both. What I have done though, because if I were to move Halvor to here with his torch out the window, what you don't want is for your player to look out the window and see the downstairs map of a sudden change in texture. Because to some smarter players, it would only go up to the wall here, but a smart player might go, oh, right, there's clearly a basement we can get to because I can see another map texture over here. So in terms of walls, I put a wall out here. And So it's a large wall that splits the entire scene in half. So if my players did go downstairs, I could just move them. Or really, I wouldn't do that with a live player. I'd delete them and I'd drag them back on there. Because otherwise, yeah, they get a little camera pan across the entire room. And then we're in the basement. So you might have different ambient music down here. Now you also, I know I talked about wooden poles in my Death House video. Being line of sight breakers. Some players really liking them. Some players really not. You might want to consider having them on here. It depends on if you think, are your group likely to get into combat with Doru or Doru and Donovich, depending on how you play it. If that does happen, this is a bit of a boring room. It's just a big empty space. Now, if you have these pillars put down as line of sight breakers, and by that I mean going in on the terrain wall level and using shift to make it snap nicely. Creating, oh, misclick there. Misclick there as well. Ooh. Making a wooden pillar. Now, if I were to, do you know what? Let me do it for a couple while we're here. I can highlight a group, copy, paste the group. Oh, and oh, but it did that for me before. There we go. Let me just see what you think of this when I'm done with it. I'm not going to do the whole place. I'm going to do 2 more. Now again, some groups like this, some groups don't. I think this room is big enough that it actually looks cool. So imagine, and I feel like this player in my campaign has changed their torchlight to be quite a bit lighter. I don't think that's really very torchy. Let's make it darker. Let's make the secondary colour a little redder, perhaps. And I also want to give the torch intensity a bit more blur and be a bit less intense. Now that could arguably be a bit more torch-like, but you might think it's a bit too disco-y. What is the range on it also? 40-20, that's right, yeah? So if you have that creepy music and you know there's something down here and all those pillars are affording line of sight, you might like that. Especially if combat's going to happen, because Doru, being a vampire spawn, has spider climb. You can use the verticality of him climbing up poles, being on the ceiling, and your players can't see him. And they're moving around low level as well, probably level 3, so probably very aware of how vulnerable they are, with these big shadows stretching out. Of all the things I could ask you for feedback on this video, I would love to know how you as a DM and as a player feel about these sort of line of sight breaker shadows, because they seem to be so divisive. People love them or hate them. I think that's brilliant, but a lot of people don't. So yeah, a shorter video, because there's not really much in here that Foundry is great, but it's not going to make work where there doesn't have to be much work. Have your doors set up, your rain effect, your nice light for a trashed church, sound effects on standby for things like windows, benches being smashed, bell being pulled. You may want to have a sound effect ready for your water drips. I have a water drip sound effect that I might put in here as a local sound, volume easing. And then I might go in here and go, now where do I have that sound living? I think it's in my ambient directory, water drip 1. There we go. That's now playing in there. As simple as that, adding a sound in. If I were to bring Halvor back upstairs. Oh, we got a little preview there. If I were to take him into that room, you might have a sound for opening, unlock. You might have, if you have a DC on undoing the padlock or a strength check, you might want to add for yourself another. If you're not adding a journal entry, you might want to add another one of these text boxes. The fewer things that you have to go, 1 second, or tab off to something else and look. If it's on the screen, great. I wouldn't go putting full text blocks in there of what people are going to say and speeches and narrative blocks. That might work for you though. Just remember to hide them so your players don't see them. Hope you found that useful. That was a quick overview of Foundry, specifically for the Village of Barovia Church. Yeah, do leave me a comment. Let me know if you found this useful, anything that wasn't useful about it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.